All right, geometry. We're going to make this short and sweet for today. We're going to do 10.4. Not too crazy. We should get this done in a few minutes or so. Nothing crazy going on here. My suggestion is, anytime we do an example, pause the video, try it on your own, and then, watch the video or keep it as paused as long as you want, and try these out. Your homework tonight is going to be number 32. I'm going to post in the calendar on Google Classroom just everything that's going to happen for the week. Okay, so let's take a look at today's lesson. Other angle relationships in circles. So let's take a look at some other theorems. So we did a lot of stuff with tangents and inscribed angles, and let's talk about some other things that can happen. So if you notice how you have an angle that is an angle that is inside the circle with a tangent line here drawn, and then you have a chord. And what this theorem says is that an angle that is made with a tangent and a chord, that angle is half of the arc that it intercepts. So angle 1 is half of arc AB, and angle 2 is half of arc ACB. So that says it right here, right? Angle 1 is half of arc AB, and angle 2 is half of arc BCA. So let's take a look at some questions here. First question is, M is tangent to the circle. Find the measure of arc RT. All right, so this is tangent to the circle, and it does say to find the measure of arc RT. So RT is this arc right here, right? It's this arc right here. So you could do this one of two ways, okay? The easiest way would be to do it this way. You say, all right, I've got a line here, I've got an angle, these two angles have to be supplementary, okay? So if this is 102, that means this angle has to be 78 degrees. Now, according to the theorem that we just talked about, this angle is half of the arc that it intercepts. So arc RT is the arc that this intercepts. So 78 is half of that arc. So that arc has to be 156 degrees, because half of 156 is your 78. The other way to do it would have been to do it this way. You say, all right, this is 102. So this is going to be half of this arc. So 102 is going to be half of 204. And you say, well, the entire circle makes 360. So if this is 204 from here to here, that means this has to be the rest to make 360, which is 156. So there are two ways to do that question. Second question. BC is tangent to the circle. Find angle CBD. So I got to find this angle right there. Well, again, you have a tangent with a chord. Now, you don't know if that's a diameter or not. That we don't know that. But it does say you have a tangent with a chord. So this angle is half of that arc, right? So that means that 3x is half of 4x plus 50. I would distribute the half through. So I've got 3x is equal to half of 4x is 2x. And half of 50 is 25. Subtract 2x to the other side, and x is going to be 25. But it does say to find the measure of angle CBD. It does not say to find x, right? So let's go back to angle CBD, and I'm going to plug 25 where x is, so the angle is 75 degrees. All right, so everybody good with that one, hopefully? Again, not too bad. All right, let's talk about what happens when two chords intersect. This is the most common type of scenario when two chords intersect. Okay, so that means we're inside the circle now. All right, as opposed to something happening, towards the outside of the circle. So we're inside the circle. When two chords intersect, this is what happens. Angle 1 is going to equal this. It's going to equal this arc plus this arc divided by 2. Okay, so it's the average of the two arcs that it intercepts. And angle 2 is going to be the average of arc BC and arc AD. Add them up and divide it by 2. Okay, so let's take a look at what it says right here. The measure of angle 1, which is right here, that's equal to CD plus AB divided by 2. CD plus AB divided by 2. So as an example, I'll just make something up right now. As an example, let's say that this arc was 40 and this arc was 50. Just making up an example. if you want to find angle 1, you're going to add these two up. 50 plus 40 is 90, and then you would divide it by 2. That would be a 45-degree angle. Okay? So let's do some practice with this concept. All right, so turning the page, let's take a look at this question right here. It says to find the value of x, and these are two chords intersecting, so this is the theorem that we just talked about. This angle right here is equal to the two arcs, these two arcs right here, added up and chopped in half. So when you add up 120 and 140, you're going to get 160. Divide that by 2, and x is going to be 80 degrees. Okay? Pause the video now and try to do this one right here. Okay, so this time they're giving you one of the arc angles plus the angle made by the two chords intersecting. You have to find this arc right here. So one more time, this angle is equal to the sum of the two arcs that it intercepts divided by 2. Okay? So 143 is equal to 136 plus x divided by 2. I would multiply 2 to the opposite side and subtract 136. So you should get 150 degrees, which makes sense because when you add up 150 plus 136, that's 286. Chop that in half and you're going to get your 143-degree angle. All right, this is where things get a little complicated. Now, the good news is that all three of these are the same basic theorem. If you have a tangent and a secant, so remember, the tangent is the line that touches the outside of the circle once. The secant touches twice. If you have two tangents, or if you have two secants. Okay, so all three of the options are here. You can either have one secant, one tangent, two tangents, or two secants. The same rule applies, okay? The angle that is formed between the two outside lines is equal to the two arcs that it intercepts subtracted by each other divided by 2. So as an example, angle 1 right here, you're going to take the bigger arc minus the smaller arc and then divide it by 2. Okay, so as a quick example, let's say that this arc was 200 degrees from B to C and this arc was 40 degrees. You would subtract 240 and get 160 and then divide it by 2. This would be an 80-degree angle. Again, not drawn to scale, I just made up numbers, but that's how you would do that. Same thing over here. If you have two tangents, same thing. You would take the bigger arc minus the smaller arc divided by 2, and that's going to be this exterior angle. Now, the good news is with the two tangents, there are only two arcs, okay? So both of these are going to make 360. So let's say that this arc was 260 and this arc was 100. So you would do 260 minus 100 for 160. Divide that by 2, and that would be an 80-degree angle. And then the same is true for two secants. All right, you would take this arc right here minus this arc right here and divide it by 2, and that's going to be the measure of this angle. So let's say that this arc right here was an 80-degree arc. This arc right here was a 10-degree arc. 80 minus 10 is 70, and you would divide that by 2 to get 35 degrees. So that would be a 35-degree angle. All right? So let's take a look and do the next 3 practice problems. Why don't you try them? Pause the video, and we'll take a look at them. All right, let's take a look at the first one. So I have two tangents being drawn. So I want to find this angle. So remember, you need to get both arcs for tangents, two tangents, to get both arcs, subtract them, and divide it by 2. So from here to here is 80. The entire circle makes 360. So that means that the big arc has to be 280, right? Because 280 and 80 make 360. So if you want to find this angle right here, you're going to do 280 minus 80 and divide it by 2. 280 minus 80 is 200. 200 divided by 2 is 100 degrees. So x is 100 degrees. Let's take a look at the next one. So you have a tangent with a secant, same concept. Now they're giving me an angle, and they're giving me one of the arcs. I have to find the bigger arc. So just remember, the bigger arc minus the smaller arc divided by 2 has to equal 58 degrees. It's what that exterior angle is. times 2 to the opposite side. So x minus 64 is equal to 116. And subtract 64. And you're going to get x equals... Sorry, my phone just froze. So anyway, where I was x minus 64 over 2 equals 58. Times 2 to the opposite side. So x minus 64 equals 116. Add 64 the other way. So x has to be 180. And again, you could just check that on your calculator real fast. 180 minus 64, and then divide that by 2 will get you 58 degrees. And let's take a look at this last example here. So this is when you have two tangents. Sure, when you have two tangents, there are only two arcs. You've got the big arc and the smaller arc. That is it. So in this example, they tell you that this is 70 degrees. They tell you that this is x. Now take a minute, try to figure this one out. This one's a little bit trickier. All right, so go ahead and see if we can figure this one out.